Well, we use a lot of the videos to instruct our program. We use the Solve and Share. We use Another Look. We use the intro video to begin our lesson with.
Absolutely. The program has so many components that help the teachers organize and structure their lessons. And over the last year, we began it and learned all about it. And this year, we've learned which steps to do first and what is the most beneficial for the learning of the students. And so the videos do help a lot, and the videos help the teachers a lot. There is one video called the Listen and Look and Listen.
Yeah.
And thank goodness we have lunch before our math program, so sometimes I can look at that video and it helps me know what to look for. It's like it helps you identify and target what you need to look for if the students, what they're learning.
Right. If they've met the objective,
Yes,
right?
it's very, very helpful. So it's sort of like a little professional development built into the program daily.
Yeah, we also like the workbooks pages for the students. Those have been really helpful. It shows a lot of different ways for them to think about it. It has a visual, so the Another Look goes home with them. At the top of the homework, it kind of will show the parents exactly what we did in class with an example. And the manipulatives that we use that go along with the program are important.
Thank you for agreeing to meet with us today, Melissa. And you teach grade 6 here?
Grade 6, yeah.
Okay. So one of the questions that we had for you is about the EnVision product and what the past 2 years have been like for you as a teacher, and how has EnVision supported instruction, or what kind of difference do you see it making in the classroom?
Okay, so last year, starting with EnVision, was a little bit tricky because there were some gaps coming from 5th grade. This year it was an easier transition because some of those gaps were filled from last year, so that was helpful for them to have already seen a lot of the different vocabulary and the way that EnVision was set up. So that was helpful this year starting compared to last year.
Did you see a big difference in the curriculum that was supported by EnVision versus what you had been doing in the past?
Yeah, so the beginning of the year starts with a little bit more difficult topics. So that was a little bit tricky for the kids to come in from 5th grade. We start with algebra, we end with algebra. So that was a little bit tricky for them. But this year I saw a smoother transition because they had some of those foundational skills from 5th grade.
And what's your assessment of the program in terms of using it in the classroom? Has it been a smooth transition? Has it been difficult for you? How do you use it?
I like using it. I like a lot of the components. There's a lot of components to use. I find myself using most of them. One of the, I think, criticisms, I guess, would be the online assessment. I find challenging sometimes. But we do use a lot of the different components like visual learning, the Solve and Share we use the Daily Common Review.
And you said the online assessment was difficult. Why is that difficult? The time? Or?
A lot of times there's a lot of work that goes in, and sometimes the answers is just how the students will put in the answers. If it wants like 1.5, it won't tell you all the time if it's 1.5 or if it wants a fraction, so it'll mark them wrong. Or most of the times it's like technical glitches, it's not necessarily the questions. It's also very time consuming.
And I think we found this year, being year 2, that the kids had a much richer vocabulary. They came in understanding some of those math words that we had trouble with last year, with the kids not really, grasping what those new words were, instead of just explain. Now it will say justify. Or,
Yes, that depth of knowledge, those questions, they're
Those
embedded
questions.
within. And there's many of them. And it also helps children explain their mathematical thinking, and the program just naturally lends to it, and it helps them give them the phrases, the words that to explain how they're thinking. And eventually in 3rd grade you're hoping that they're going to be able to write it out too.
They're very good at verbalizing it. I know that we do a lot of partner work when they do the games, and they're able to tell you how they were thinking and solving problems without even using a paper and pencil.
And is that a difference that you see?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So I'm kind of curious, what did it look like before, and then what does it look like now?
Well, there was kind of only like one way of the highway.
Yes.
And now students are able to, show their thinking and explain their thinking and solve a problem more than one way. And that's fabulous. And it really has changed the way that I think that we teach math. And I think that we're creating strategic learners. So they're thinking about it and they're building up their stamina, not giving up, and they're able to show someone else in the classroom how to solve it without giving them the answer, or try this strategy or try this strategy. And we've been very impressed with what they've been able to do, and we share and talk about that. Like, I can't believe that the student said this, and I never even thought of that. And yeah, I'm very impressed with their thinking and the way they think about math.
And the program also is different, where it kind of flows nicely into doing the guided math groups, working with children at their instructional level, or that you can identify children easier that need those interventions, so that you can structure your math groups. And it comes with a lot of components to be able
So
to
something
do.
that is new in this program that we hadn't had is that online piece. So we've been almost challenging ourselves to use more of it, assigning the kids like quick checks, and even doing the assessment for each topic online, so that they're getting used to being assessed that way. They also need to have paper and pencil to work through those problems, so that they're not just sticking to clicking, but making sure that they are showing their work and understanding. They're really good. You can create 2 different groups, and it's flexible, so that you can modify assignments.
You can modify any assignment on there, which is fabulous. So you can set up, as Jerry said, you can set up your teams or your groups, and it can be assigned online, and they can work in here on the laptops, or they can do their assignment at home.
That's great.
So
And
it's
are the
fabulous.
students able to access the technology pretty easily? Are they able to log in and there's not problems with
Yeah,
access?
it's a learning process.
There we
It's
go.
a learning process, and the more you do, I think that the better they get. So they've learned how to do it, and we have to teach them that. So it's experience.
Great. And you are part of the group that's piloting the MCAS online this year?
Yes.
Yes.
Kudos to you, that's exciting. So you're doing, I assume, probably more than other people in terms of making sure the online components are utilized as much as possible.
And there's a lot there that they offer. The Another Look video I have assigned many times to go along with homework, so that parents, families can look back and review what the concept of the day was, what the objective was, and say, oh, now I get it. Now, if I need to guide my child or they have a question. So.
Your comments just made me think, how are parents reacting? Last year there was a little bit of anxiety about the program, and we did a number of information sessions that seemed to go well, but I'm not hearing as much feedback this year.
Yeah, not as many. I know we just had our conferences, and that usually comes up. But I think how it comes with, like Lynn had said about the online piece, but also even if you stick with the workbook pages, there's a page that reteaches and shows, so the parents can see that, and it's also helping the parents understand that what they're learning now is going to help them in the future, and making that connection. Like, why would you do all these steps to do one simple math problem? And explaining, it's a lot of education for parents too, explaining, well, they're going to need this for when they get to larger problems. It's just another strategy, and
Just another
and
strategy.
It's just another
Right.
tool for
That's
them.
all.
They're trying not to look at it so much like we didn't learn math this way anymore, but maybe understanding the process of why we're making them think about how they solve a problem and the different strategies they can use. There's a Bounce app that goes along with EnVisions, and I think this is a great tool. So if you have an iPad or an iPhone and you have the Bounce app on it, the page that we send home for homework is scanned in, and it pops them right to that video almost automatically, so then they will know what their child has seen in class, and the video walks them through it in a simpler way. So there are so many different components to the EnVisions program that are really parent-friendly.
Great. How have the students responded to the new program?
They seem to like it. I think the videos over time, the visual learning videos over time, I think in the beginning they liked them, and I think they're becoming kind of dry for them. But I like having something for them also, because I assign the videos at home. So if they are having trouble with their homework, then they can go revisit the video, so they have that reinforcement at home. And that also helps the parents help them as well.
Do you ever, and what do you think has been the impact of the program on student learning?
I think it's a great program for student learning. I think it's a little bit more challenging for my current students because they've had many programs throughout their elementary career so far. So I think over time we'll see more growth, but I think right now this is only their second year. I think the current kindergarten, first, second graders, I think we'll see more growth over time.
And what about, you must be noticing gaps, right? Because they've all
Right.
come from different sort of programs into EnVision, and even
Right.
though that last year that brought everybody into the same page, they still had different preparation for grade 4.
Right.
So how are you addressing that?
So we, at the end of last year and over the summer, doing some summer work, we kind of compared and try to determine what we were going to focus the beginning of the year on to fill those gaps. So we noticed there's a lot of fractions in algebra, but we don't actually do fractions until later on in the year. But they need that foundational skill. So we spent the first couple weeks revisiting one of the topics in the EnVision grade 5, so they could still see the information presented in a similar way, but it was a 5th grade standard. But they needed that foundational skill in order to be successful at the beginning of the year.
You're able to use, through your program, you're able
Right.
to access all grade levels.
Right. You
and
can add
all-
whatever grade level you want to your
And all the
profile.
materials and
Yeah.
supports. Anything else you'd like to say about EnVision? Is there anything that...
I use, not everybody does this, but I use the Math Center games a lot. Sometimes it's just like an extra activity to get reinforcement. I like the reteaching section. Overall, I like it compared to a lot of the programs that I've used. I know that it can be overwhelming to see everything that there is to choose from and to kind of pick and choose. You almost don't know what works until after.
Sure. Do you use the guided math workshop model too?
It depends on the topic.
Yeah.
Like the first 5 topics were challenging for my students, but then the next topic that we're doing, which is topic 6, is division. So that'll be a little bit more independent, but yeah, for the most part.
And with you use that model more with the independent work than with the
Right, with the
stay whole
skills,
group for
right.
the other units were more whole
Right.
group. Okay, I get it. Awesome. Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
And
The questions are very rigorous.
Yeah.
And I even
Yeah,
asked
right.
my students about those difficult questions this morning, and they, talked about how it was really, they didn't even want to turn to the back side of the page to see some of those hard ones in the beginning of the year. And now, when we highlight the ones that we're going to do, I hear some of them go, yay! And they're excited to do the more challenging ones.
I think that they're more prepared and more willing to be take chances with the vocabulary and take chances and try out a problem other than just give up. And I've seen a huge improvement in that from last year.
Absolutely.
And what they're able to take from the year before. I know we're all scaffolding and building and it takes some time, but
I think we are feeling more comfortable with it too.
Yeah.
So as far as like making the math rotations and centers work, using the online games at home, the students really like that. But mine will ask like, "Oh, we have to do math games today." It's
Right.
just something you can't fit into every lesson every day. But the rotation piece of that, they really do enjoy.
oh, we share a lot amongst each other as well. So if someone's got an idea or they found something, we're like, oh, come show me, and that way we can share with our students, and all of our students benefit from that. So.
And the math vocabulary, that was huge. It's like a whole other language for them, especially a new program. So it wasn't as overwhelming as it was last year. They know what a bar diagram is, and that's big in EnVisions. And they seem to be more willing to use those words more in their talk about math too.
Because we're not just using the word answer, we're using sum, product, difference, quotient. We're using that math vocabulary. So.
We had an aha moment in the class the other day. I was telling the ladies about one of the problems was we're doing distributive property with area, where they take a large rectangle and they have to divide it. And one of the math problems, all of a sudden, on the rigorous questions was 24 times 9. And off there, like, you could hear the buzz, we can't do this, we can't do this. And then one boy goes, like he goes, I know. And he right away, without even drawing it out, just said, I can break the 24 up into 20 plus 4, and I can multiply. And then they saw that connection. So every once in a while, there's a problem in there, and that you need to look for, because it's where they pull it all together, and they've been learning all those little pieces. And it was just amazing, because he stood up and he went, wait a minute. And he's like, and then he shares with the class, and then they all split it up different ways, whatever works for them. And it was just one of those,
Each lesson every day, and students have an opportunity to think about the problem in their own way, and then they can solve it, and then we encourage them to use another strategy to show how they can solve it. And then students share, and they love that part, and we love that part.
So neat to see. We didn't have that before in our other program.
Yeah.
No.
And I was not that kind of thinker as a math, and I would never do the way some of these kids, because I learned the rote way. I never learned
The one
how to
way.
understand
The
the
one
one
way.
way. So sometimes when I see all these strategies, I'm like, no way, no one's going to do it this way. But there's always somebody in the room
Yeah.
who does it some very complex way. And it's just
It's,
amazing.
really
and
different
they're-
needs.
it's accepted. It's
Yeah.
accepted because as long as they can explain their thinking
It
and they
works.
solved it correctly.
That's great. My final question to you guys is, what do you need from us going forward? What are some of the things that would help you in?
Yeah, definitely if we were a one-to-one technology,
That would be
you know,
incredible.
grade level classroom.
And if we want our students to be those 21st century learners, you know, the ones that everything is so much technology, it's so different for us to think this way, but that's the way it is. That the component has, like, we do the quick check because it's 5 questions, but
Right.
there is another one which is
The buddy
the
check.
buddy check, thank
Yeah.
you, that has like 12 questions, which you can modify, but it's like part 1 and part 2, so it slows them down in thinking. But if you only have 5 laptops, you're gonna opt to do and adjust to do the quick check.
Quick check.
It's quick. Still learning the technology. For me personally, the technology piece and what that data looks like. How do we access
Oh,
that?
the
Because
data,
sometimes
right.
it's a little tricky going through trying to find what is it really giving us.
It is hard.
I still think that they could do a
Do
better
more
job
training
on
of
showing their
Pearson.
data. I think that they could do a
Yes.
better
Or
job.
is it
on
there
that.
and we just don't know how to access it the right
That's
way?
So maybe having a day-to-day from Pearson would be really helpful now. You know, 2 years in, having much more, your questions would be much richer at this point than they were last year when you were trying to figure it all out, so. I think
Right,
that
and will
might
the
more
data be
fun.
tracked for them per grade level? So the kids we had last year that are now in 4th grade, is the data online that we did with them? So all of these
Yeah.
online pieces, is it going to follow them?
Right.
So that we can not just use the MCAS,
Right,
you know, park data, but
Yeah.
have some of the Pearson.
local data too,
Mhm.
yeah.
to know.
And we've also been working with, speaking of the online piece, I
Mm.
know that we've talked about when students are taking an assessment or doing some work online, that they must have a paper and pencil next to, you know, their laptop or their work. And we've done this different ways, breaking up the paper into certain sections, but students still need to show their work instead of just clicking. There really is some thinking that they need to do before that they choose an answer.
Which is obviously great practice for them because all their tests going forward for probably the rest of their lives
Right.
are going to be online.
Mhm.
So final thoughts?
It's a great program. Really
Yeah,
happy
it's
that
very
we're
rich,
moving,
yes.
yeah, moving to it.
We like it, we think it's.
Awesome. Good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
The ways that I feel that it's helpful. And I think, first of all, it's very motivating and the kids love to use it. One of the really valuable things about the Lexia is that they can go online at home and use it. And we have so many students that are going home and just getting so involved in practicing these very important foundational skills. As a reading specialist, I find that one of the most difficult things is including the repetition in practice into the basic skills that kids need in order to become really good readers. And this really fills that niche of the practice and the repetition that they so much need in their reading acquisition. The Lexia is not a substitute for learning new skills and for direct explicit instruction that students need in the classroom and in small group instruction. However, it really does reinforce the skills, and because it places the kids where they are instructionally in the basic skills, it's very useful in differentiating that practice. One of the really exciting parts is when the kids earn the certificates when they go from one level to the next, and they get so excited about it. They love to share that information, and they love to share that they've used the Lexia at night at home. So it's a very motivating program.
Nicole,
Yes.
how long have you been here at Pembroke North?
So I've been at North for 3 years as a para and as a long-term sub, and this year I'm teaching first grade. So
And how has Lexia impacted your instruction? Having worked here as a paraprofessional, as a long-term sub, and now as a classroom teacher,
yes.
what's the change that this program has elicited in the classroom?
So I think for the younger grades, this is fantastic. It's able to, it allows the teacher to be able to pinpoint where a student is when they come in, where they're learning.
Are you able to look at the data from the night
Yes.
before?
Yes. So, and to start at the beginning of the year, we give them that placement setup. So they get put into a grade level. The students aren't aware of where they are in the grade level. They just know they're on a level, which is great. And it shows me whether they come in at a kindergarten level or they come in above a first grade reading level. So it's fantastic for me to be able to use the data that I get every single day to guide my instruction too. So I find it extremely helpful. Like, it comes with lessons. If a student is struggling, I can help a student, target one area, or, I can supplement for a child who is a great reader and comes in a fantastic reader. I can see what else I can do for them to support that.
So as part of your practice, do you log into the Lexia program every day and take a look at the minutes that students are
Yes.
accruing, and then look for the progress areas?
Absolutely. So every single day I log in, I see if they're doing it at home. And of course some students don't have access at home, and that's okay. And I can supplement in the classroom and give them some extra time on Lexia. Or there's been weeks we've had 100% across the board with minutes, and it's great. And I, applaud them in here and give them, we beat our time this week. This is awesome, and everybody did it. So it's a great program all around.
And is there any one area that you've noticed in looking at that data where students are struggling or where students are doing really well?
I think that's actually the neat part about it, is that instead of looking at the class as a whole, I can actually reach every kid where they're at. So, instead of gauging the progress as the whole class, I can actually see a printed out report of, student A is here, but student B is here. So I can work on specific skills, and it doesn't matter that one kid is struggling. The whole class will benefit from, the direct instruction about that, but I can at least know where each kid is at. So
How is it impacting your practice?
Okay.
You know?
So, two of the things that I like the best about it, because it has the 5 components with first grade. So the phonological awareness piece is huge, because there are a lot of students coming into first grade really have some gaps in their achievement in that area. And in order to find out specifically like where those gaps are, it takes a lot of teacher one-on-one time. So the fact that it initially goes through the automatic placement, and then afterwards is bringing through each student through each separate area, it breaks that down really easily and gets to the specifics. So it's not even just doing like I'm having issues with ending sounds, but it's pinpointing where they are, which medial vowels you're having the issue with, and is giving like the practice with that. So and it also, I like the fact that it groups the students as well, so I don't have to be going through all of like the data myself. It groups them, and then if I want to pull a group for doing that types of things, that makes it a lot easier. Also with the phonological awareness piece, because oftentimes the students that have difficulty with that, they need repeated practice and skill development with it, and eventually we run out of materials a lot of times, and then as a teacher I'm like trying to like look and find like what can I find here and what can I grab from there, and the fact that all of the materials are like right there has been huge. It'll just like a lot less teacher time with researching where to find stuff and pulling things for the kids that need repeated
So you've been pleased with the
practice.
resources that are part of the program, and the worksheets that come with it, and the
Yes.
they have, like, direct instruction pieces, right?
Right. So with the direct instruction piece, at this stage, for example, with the kids that have issues with that, I haven't been printing out a lot of the materials because it's like lots of paper for the pictures. So that's where, like in a small group or one-on-one, I'm working with them and I'm saying, okay, you're going to tell me that, and then also in doing with that piece, I can be, you know, taking some good like informal, you know, data myself, and also I have a paraprofessional that's able to come into the classroom for about an hour every morning. And so because it is kind of scripted, then I can end up saying like, oh, can you pull like these two students and can you kind of go through these things, where then again, as a classroom teacher, I'm not having to like write all of that out or get into like a big conversation, you know, taking away from my teaching time with the short amount of time that I have the paraprofessional in the classroom. And the other component that I love as far as like a first grade teacher is the fluency and the automaticity piece. And again, that's one of those things, if you have great parent support at home, those are the things that parents are working on and drilling and doing that. And although we do work on sight words and we are working on like reading individual phrases and repeated sentence structures and that type of thing to make them more fluent automatic readers, obviously I have to teach a large number of things in the literacy. So if they're having difficulty in that area and they don't have someone at home that is able to drill them on those things, a lot of times those students aren't getting that. So this I am finding is great because it is not letting them move on, and it also gives me really good feedback. I can go and be looking at the time. It's like, oh my goodness, like they are really like struggling finding, you know, the difference between B and D. It's taking this long. And so then it's one of those things where I'm, as a classroom teacher, when they are using it in front of me, I'm paying attention more. Okay, is this an attention issue, or is this where they're really struggling? Because sometimes they're not getting necessarily like a red flag for that I need to meet with them, but it is something that they're staying on and struggling for a long period of time.
So by observing the minutes and the success that they're having in that amount of time, you're able to determine that from the reporting in Lexia.
Yes, and also with the just quick checks with the observations. So on the bottom when they have like the bar that's there. So if it's if it's I can just walk around. If it's a green bar, then it means like they're moving along with where they're going. If it's blue, it means that they're getting like the guided practice piece of it. So I know, oh, okay, they're kind of having, you know, a tough time, and then I'll make sure that I'm really going back and checking that. And if it's the yellow piece, it means like they're really, you know, struggling and to go back. So that's and they know that too. That it's like, oh, if you know you're getting to blue, that means that you really need to be like, you know, starting to pay attention and really staying focused and you know, with the redirection. So
we're really interested in how you are using Lexia in the classroom this year.
So this year with Lexia, I am able to use it in both my Daily 5, which the students are able to log onto iPads and use it as part of a Daily 5 center. They are sent home some nights with it as homework. And luckily for me, they love it so much. Sometimes it's used as a reward in here that they want to get on there and use it.
With a question regarding the impact on student learning and achievement. And I guess you would only be able to speak to the fact that you didn't have it last year and you had it this year. So what kind of differences are you seeing?
Besides what I said with the instruction, I think the big piece overall, the students are pretty motivated. They do like the certificates, and I kind of like, you know, make like a big deal at the end of every day. You know, I go through, I print out the ones, and when we're like packing up folders, I present them, and you know, the kids you know, clap for one another. And it's been interesting because it's been starting to evolve with the students that aren't earning them as quickly. The support that they're getting from like their classmates by like, oh wow, like, you know, you passed a level. So it's reinforcing that way with the students. And as far as the actual instruction and watching the growth, the majority of my students, and it will be interesting to see how this plays out next year. The majority of my students came in at pre-K level or below. So it's a very, very needy group.
Wow.
So in watching where they are going and monitoring and going through, it's been very interesting to see like how much they are learning. And I definitely think that is making a difference, because when we are doing different things with other assessments, with the DRA and with benchmark funds and doing that type of thing, I am seeing a lot of growth. And although I didn't have this program before, I do believe with kids that are struggling this much and that are this needy, that extra benefit is making the progress go faster.
Sure, the practice.
Yes.
And the direct, like the adaptive part of it, right? So
Yeah,
if they're
absolutely.
struggling, they go back to the skill that they haven't acquired and that they really get it.
Yes.
How have students responded to the program?
So the students in my class love Lexia. Luckily, they aren't aware of where they are grade level wise, but they know that they're on level, so it creates a little bit of friendly competition, like I passed level 6 or I passed level 7. Oh, I'm gonna finish a level tonight. I'm gonna do it. So they're really taking the opportunity to use it. And I have a lot of students who love it so much, like I said earlier, that they use it as a reward. They're like, if we do really good today, can we have extra Lexia time at the end of the day? So, I mean, I can't complain if they want to, be reading.
What is it that makes it so student-friendly?
So, it's easy to log on to. Once they master how to get into it, there's no problem. I don't have to help them anymore. They just know how to do it. And there's animations. They get to travel to different countries. They get to see different things. They come up to me, Miss Fab, I'm in Scotland. Miss Fab, I just went to, the Egyptian desert. And it kind of gives them like some information about it. They're learning something else. They don't see it as a reading like program.
And then you can be really seeing the growth from like where they started and what they were working on compared to like what they're working on now. So it makes it very, very clear, and I like it because of that piece as well. It giving the parent
Direct feedback.
the feedback, and it's in language that they can easily understand, and then it also ends up something that they can end up talking to their child about, having a discussion and explain
Involving
more,
them.
especially with the younger grades, because a lot of times they have forgotten by the time they get home what things that they're doing that day. So you have that specific there. They're able to.
Would you recommend keeping it?
I
Right?
absolutely would at this point, and I think it works well with the pieces of the literacy program that we have now. And I think a key point is to make sure that it works with classroom instruction. Sure. It's not in place of classroom and instruction and what is going on. So obviously it's one of those things where it needs to be the training was great. I think moving forward, having discussions about how we're going to use that data and what are the things that we're learning and we're seeing, and then how is that as program wise going to impact like the district and instruction. I think will be important components, but right now I'm really liking what it's doing, and it's like I said, it's giving more specific feedback, especially in those areas.
And it seems to me like, just based on what you said, it's more efficient, right? It's saving you a lot of time of having to sit with students and do all that
and
with
just
them.
and the groupings and finding the materials and all of that. And then again, it's just, and they're getting it's a piece of it. They're getting one-on-one either instruction or independent practice and working on that, which is at their individual level. Because even if we're doing it in a small group, it's not. I mean, it's close. It's as close as we can, but it's not.
It might not be
their own independent thing.
Yeah.
And some student might have an easier time with the comprehension. Where somebody else maybe is having a more difficult time with the fluency piece, but reading level wise they're on the same thing, and so when we end up like meeting, sometimes it isn't the most efficient way.
Sure.
So with doing it this way, I think it's a positive.
Yeah, it seems like focusing on those 6 skills is really like going to pay dividends, I think.
Lexia, that like you learn so much when you get to higher levels.
Excellent. Do you have a favorite unit or a favorite game or skill on there that you like to do?
I like all of it.
You like all of it. That's awesome. And what part of it are you reading about now?
I'm working on level 14.
Oh, congratulations. That's excellent. Good job.
So it just makes you learn a lot more and gives you a lot more energy to do new things.
I love that idea. More energy. That's so true too. Very good. And Leah, what about you? What do you like about it?
I think that it like helps us get smarter every day, and like the bigger levels you get, it's how like smarter you get each day.
Do you get from Lexia, do you guys get certificates?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Do you like getting those certificates?
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And how does Mrs. Duffy use Lexia at school? Do you ever use it here?
Yes.
Yes. I've seen some of your usage. You guys use it a lot, right? You use it a lot at home and at school. Is that right?
Uh-huh.
Yep. How do you use it here?
Use it on those blue tablets over there.
Yeah, you use the tablets. And is it part of your daily 5? Maybe? No? Sometimes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever use it at the library?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every time. pretty
Every
much.
time. Awesome. Awesome. Do you think most kids in your class like it?
Yes. Pretty much everyone does.
Yeah. Do people talk about it?
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Is there anything else you think that we should know about Lexia? Would you like us to keep it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much.
Very much. Good. Okay. Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell us? Final thought? No? Well, thank you for giving up your library time. We really appreciate it.